firstly, I suppose just a few thoughts on LinkedIn. The first one is if you don't have a profile, I would manage your expectations. What I mean by that is it's not going to be an overnight fix, but it's definitely absolutely an amazing thing to do, to have the platform and to build it and build your connections over time. The second thing I would say is to view LinkedIn like two sides of a coin. The first side of the coin is building the best looking profile that you can, and we're going to cover that this morning. But that's only half the story with LinkedIn. If you just leave it there and do nothing with it, it's like everything, what you put in, you get back. So the second side of the coin is getting that lovely, beautiful profile seen by a wide audience. So it's like developing a beautiful website for yourself, brendan.com, and I have all the bells and whistles and the banners and the media uploads, etc. But like any website, the little that we don't need to be IT experts. We know that if a website gets no audience, it's redundant. It's pointless, really. So I'll look at that towards the end. But now we'll kind of just look at building the best profile possible. And you see a figure there, according to LinkedIn data, over 66% of the working population in Ireland has a LinkedIn profile, which is very high because not everybody would, I suppose, be. I would say LinkedIn would be more those working on a laptop or desk base, etc. But not primarily, but a majority. So that's quite a high number. So we're going to look at why should you consider using LinkedIn. I give a kind of 10 top tips for building your profile, and then we're going to have a look at some of the newer products and functionality that have been released recently by LinkedIn. So the reasons to use LinkedIn, it's my own personal top 10. So it's where most people you meet professionally go to connect with you. Okay, so gone be the day when you're asking for mobile numbers, etc. If you do, let's say, go to an online webinar and you send a thank you message, you might be well wise then to go look for the person on LinkedIn and then to remind them, obviously, where you met them. Or if you were on campus and hopefully employers would be back, you can then obviously go to a talk, and if you have a conversation with the employer, you can link in with them later by just saying, look, are you on LinkedIn? Would you mind if I connect with you? Second one, you need to have a large network so you can use it later. So the ideal time to build a LinkedIn profile would be as an undergrad in your first year in UL, particularly since UL have one of the largest, internship co-op programs in Europe. So year 3, the majority of students in UL would go out to industry. That's a great place then to have, a profile and start building all those connections. But you can retrospectively build them as well, and we'll look at how to do that. Number 3, there, many recruiters use it to vet and source candidates. I would say the majority of recruiters, all I would say now use LinkedIn to vet and source candidates. Okay, and we'll look at a little bit more at that in a moment. Number 4, the engagement can be fantastic if you're active on the platform. So that really, in essence, was my opening statement there. There's no point in going to the trouble of building this beautiful profile and all the text and the media that we'll talk about, and then just sitting back and waiting for something to happen. So we're going to talk about getting that profile seen. Number 5, great for alumni network and to keep tabs on your friends and classmates. It is what it says on the box there. So you're going to leave UL. Everybody in your class is going to work in the similar field to yourself, and they'll be scattered to the 4 corners. Networking is about staying in touch with people, and LinkedIn is just built for that purpose. So starting right now, you can connect with anyone in your class that has, or previous classes that have, a LinkedIn profile, and to keep tabs with those for personal and professional reasons in the future. Number 6, it's a great place to look for a job and get automated job alerts. I'd say it's the premium place really to keep an eye on the job market. I would say very much the majority of employers now are putting all their positions on LinkedIn. And it's a two-way street. So obviously, when you start looking for roles or start typing in job titles, LinkedIn gives you the option immediately. Do you want to convert this search into an alert? Okay. So knowing what job titles are relative to you is half the battle. And if you went on to the UL website, onto the careers side of the UL website, and looked for publications under the career service, you would see something called Careers by Degrees, which looks at your class for the last 5 years, and it gives the data from the survey that we do every year with last year's graduates. So it'll show you the job titles they're working in. You could use that then as a template to set up alerts on LinkedIn. Number 7, host your recommendations, positive references online. You can have the most glowing references, but without LinkedIn, they're sitting on your laptop, and they're never seen the light of day. So, if you have, experienced advocates, ex-bosses, etc., that were willing to vouch for you, you should reach out and ask them to do a reference. They might exchange it by email first, and then you can upload it onto LinkedIn. I won't go into the button to do that. You can just Google that, but it's fairly straightforward. And the more of those, I think, particularly when you're on the line, whether or not to get a place at the interview table, I think those positive references from several experienced people can be the tipping point for the HR folk to say, let's get in touch with Brendan there and just to fill the last space, at the interview table. Number 8, opportunities come to you. Recruiters look for passive candidates. And that there's a lot of technology now in the back of LinkedIn. So there's a lot of search engine optimization. We're going to talk about the wording that you use on your profile so that the robots basically can find you, that you can be included on lists when companies are doing their searches to reach out to you. Number 9, it's an excellent news source. Yeah, I mean, I've been in a few companies myself, and I think LinkedIn is fantastic for just keeping in touch with different colleagues, or ex-colleagues, and where they are now. It's also, I suppose, in my role in the university, I learn an awful lot about the different companies, our employer partners, what's happening for the different contacts that I'd be regularly in touch with from various companies, because they post on LinkedIn, and it really gives you a behind the scenes kind of feel for the culture in the company, away from that front end glossy kind of website or corporate website. So it's an excellent news source. Number 10, excellent research tool, especially before an interview. Absolutely, go ahead, and if you have an email and you're invited to interview, you have the names of the people from the company, go into LinkedIn and see what's their background. Yes, they can see, depending on their settings, if you have looked at their profile. A lot of people get quite nervous about that. Is it a bit spooky? Is it giving the wrong message? Not at all. I mean, that day has long passed. Certainly, the recent employers I'd have talked to about this would have said, "Look, you nearly expect it. It just shows that they're doing their research and getting ready for the interview." I certainly would like to know if somebody had done perhaps the same course as me in UL, and they're interviewing me. So, that could tailor your commentary, just knowing a fact like that. So an excellent research tool. You could even go and look at the people who are working in the team that you're applying to join. Look at their backgrounds. It gives you a feel of what the company like and what they're interested in. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start now from the top of a LinkedIn profile right down to the bottom, and just give you some commentary as regards what we feel would be best practice to build the perfect LinkedIn profile. So the first tip would be not to take your CV in its entirety and just dump it onto the platform. So, describe an overview of your experience and abilities as you would to someone you've just met. So you have to write for the internet and the screen. So what we mean by that is short blocks of copy, a couple of lines and broken up with some bullets, okay? There is a profile section, which is kind of like an introduction or a summary about you at the start of the profile. I'll give more details of that in a moment. do upload a photo. There's no point in having a LinkedIn profile without a photo, and not just any photo, the best possible professional photo. It doesn't mean you have to book a photographer. The smartphones are so advanced now that you can just, stand near natural light, a clear background, shoulders, a little bit of space above your head. There's some details there on the slide, and dress for your target audience would be the tip. So if you're a tech person and you want to work in Google and they all wear t-shirts, yeah, probably fine to have that attire in your LinkedIn profile. If you're in law, banking, everybody's suited and booted, even though they're hybrid or working at home now, still dress for your target audience. So don't have casual clothing, maybe you're out at a wedding, etc. If your audience don't wear that attire when they're working. So just dress for your target audience. Now, aside from your photo, there is a banner at the back of the photo that goes across the length of your profile at the very top. And LinkedIn give you the option to upload and to change that. So there's a website, you can see it's listed on the bottom left corner there, called Canva, CANVA.com. And you can just, when you're in Canva, it's free. You can just type in LinkedIn banner and it gives you a whole range of banners. Some students, look for banners that relate to their area of study. If you don't want to do that, you can just do some sort of, abstract color graphic or something, but it just looks, as I said, it looks a lot better than just having just blank uploads there. Here are some unsuitable headshots. You might laugh, but if you went on to Google, or sorry, you went on to LinkedIn this evening, you would see plenty of them. So the first one there's a girl and she's on a night out and she's overexposed there. I mean, blurred. You can see an arm across the shoulder that's being cropped off. Below that there's obviously somebody into hill walking. That's not appropriate. Photo too far away, as it says there. A gentleman, this is an extreme version here, and he's holiday picture and he's very relaxed. It's all very fun. Not appropriate, not professional for LinkedIn. The most common one would be the one at the bottom, which I always say it's the Irish wedding. So we're looking good. We have the dress, the guna, the suit, and yeah, there was a picture with a group. But you see this guy, this example here, he's cropped it, but the sun is behind him, so he's all in shade. Again, not of any use from a LinkedIn point of view. Okay, I mentioned the profile or summary below your photo, which is a little bit longer than the short writing for internet, or short few lines broken up with some bullet points, etc. The exception to that is your summary. It's the About You section. You can see it there midway on the right, just below my photo. I had an opportunity to go inside LinkedIn, to sit down in their cafeteria and talk to a colleague or ex-colleague who's working for them. And this is one of the areas that I asked about. And this is literally, some of the responses that she gave me. So it was to write your story. And what we mean by is your career story in the first person. Okay. And this should be the next best introduction to meeting you. Okay. So if I just meet you, hello, John, Lisa, tell me a little bit about yourself. This is the trajectory up until the present time. So that would mean your education choices, your journey through those qualifications, your decision to, if it's come to Ireland or to do a postgrad or return to education, this is where it's housed. So it's your story to date, and it's also where you want to go. It is still a social media platform, even though it's on the professional end. So you don't have to be as rigid as your CV. You can make it a little bit, less formal, more conversational. You have 2,000 characters, so that's 400 words. I wouldn't say you'd need all of that. You could probably do two, large kind of two bigger paragraphs. At the end of the summary, I see a lot of people, and this is coming back to the search engine optimization. They'll tell their story. They might break it up into two paragraphs, maybe three small paragraphs, whatever is their choice. But at the end, they will say skill set includes, and then they will just literally insert these tag words. And where do they get these tag words? They're looking at job descriptions, target job descriptions, and these are the buzzwords that are keep coming back that relate to the area or the job that they want, and they're cleverly syncing to the search engine optimization. So that's the robots at the back of LinkedIn that grab your profile and return it to the organization that's looking for those skills. Okay, so go ahead and express a little personality, as it says, and some people even put a little message inviting people to connect with them. I've already talked about the keywords there. As I said, that just helps search engines find you, and we'll talk a little bit more about those in a moment. Beside your photo is what LinkedIn call your headline, your professional headline. So it's a line of text beside your name, and it's the first thing, as it says there, people see in your profile, and it follows your name, or that little card follows you around in search lists. If you comment on the platform, if you like anything and somebody hovers the mouse over your name, that's what comes up. So it's your shop window. It's the first thing people see. So as students, you may not have a company brand or job title. Therefore, you might decide to put in some sort of a professional personality or eye-catching phrase. It's 120 characters, which is roughly a line and a half of A4 paper. And it's something, to entice the passive audience to stop and maybe click through. And then obviously you now have an audience, potential hiring managers, etc., are now reading your profile. So it's a key bit, and it's often overlooked. Here's some examples at the top there: international management, MSc at UL, and they're writing, I suppose, to fit as much in. So there is abbreviation allowed. It is a social media platform, so they're fitting in as much as they can. Remember, I said it's 120 characters. So 9 months Dell internship, and they're available for a role in August 21. Masters in HRM, and they're telling me they have a business undergrad with that, and they're telling me that they're doing a thesis on big data or recruitment. Masters at law at UL, they're telling me that they have a first class honors already as an undergrad. So these are sound bites to pecker my interest so that I will click through, and that's the whole point. Getting people to read your profile and stay a little bit longer on your profile will lead to a conversion to obviously an opportunity. So that's the whole point of it. Some other examples there. Deloitte, Honours International Business student, and they tell me that he or she is the auditor of the UL Business Society. Okay, so think unique selling points and what you can fit on 120 characters basically. So tip 5, how do I know that I've done enough on my profile? Okay, so we've talked about some sections there. So LinkedIn have a kind of barometer to guide you and to let you know digitally that you have a complete profile. So you start off, you can see the bubbles at the top there, and you start off as a beginner, then you go into intermediate, advanced, expert, and all-star. To become an all-star, which is their version of a complete profile, you need to add a photo, list a minimum of 2 past positions and descriptions, have 5 or more skills on your profile, write a summary, which we just went through, your career story, fill out your industry, okay, add your education, and have 50. So 50 is a golden number or more connections, and then they will convert you to all-star status, and that lets you know that you've done a complete profile. Now, tip 6, and we'll go into search engine optimization here, is to be found. Okay, so think of, you can see the top skills, the first column there. So LinkedIn allow you to add skills to your profile. Now, any one of us at the top, off the top of our head, we might maybe just think of maybe 10 skills at a push. Okay, it allows you to upload 50. I would go beyond, the first that come into your mind and try and push to a higher number because of search engine optimization. Again, look at the target job descriptions, look at maybe other LinkedIn profiles that are more mature, more experienced, and you will see the language that needs to be up there in relation to skills. The photos you see beside the skills show people that endorsed your skills. How did that come about? When they initially, were introduced in different sections to LinkedIn, they just introduced skills. There was no endorsements. Later, they introduced endorsements, and they allowed anyone at any level to endorse you. And then they announce that the higher endorsements you have for particular skills will raise you up in the search rankings. Like any of us, we look for something on Google or Amazon, we normally find it in the first 7 pages. It's not really that different for organizations. You know, if you're not up on the first few pages, you are not going to be invited to interview. So it's important to get the skills up there and get the endorsements. How do I get endorsements? Well, it's kind of like a reciprocal action. The more people you endorse, the more they return the favor, and that's really how it works. A little bit there on search engine optimization. I've kind of went over that once or twice already, so I think we've kind of covered that. And just to keep in mind, the words that you use on your profile throughout make an impact on search engine optimization. Tip 7, customize your profile URL. So this is your URL that's unique to your profile in the search engine or the address bar at the top of your screen. Now, if you don't customize it, you don't edit this, the platform will automatically generate a generic URL with lots of letters and numbers. The reason we want you to customize your LinkedIn profile URL is we'd like you to put it up on the top of your CV when you are happy with your LinkedIn profile, because it's just so much more expansive information for the employer. You can nearly show and not just tell, where the CV is just text. You're just telling them what you've done, etc. You can actually show them, well, uploads, media, video, slides, you name it, you can put it up on your profile. So you just literally, there's a step-by-step approach there. Click me, view profile, edit profile, and you see what's available. It'll bring you to the edit your LinkedIn profile URL. Depending on how common or unusual your name denotes, like claiming a Gmail, what's available. I would take the best that's available right now, because LinkedIn is just going to grow in the years to come. I forgot to mention that obviously LinkedIn was bought out by Microsoft. Obviously, it aligns very well with their Office suite and the whole professional business of Microsoft. Okay, number 8, you can add in your relevant certifications and qualifications. So the sections you see initially are on LinkedIn are interchangeable. When you go into edit profile, you can drag a section down. I can decide, okay, I'm going to drag my work experience, because I'm a mature student. My work experience still has higher value, I believe, than any qualification so far. Or, you're a young graduate and you believe, okay, it's my education that I want them to see first and foremost. So I'm making sure that that's up towards the top of my profile, and maybe the work experience down the bottom. Do I need to put every part-time job on LinkedIn? Not necessarily. Okay, not necessarily. So you can basically just maybe put relevant jobs on your LinkedIn profile. Tip 9, and this is an important one. Okay, going back to my comment on, it's not your CV and it's not a digital version. It is way more expansive than that. I would like you to consider your LinkedIn profile as your career portfolio from here on in, okay? And this is the place where you house your achievements, your accolades. So for example, if you're doing maybe a final year dissertation, why just send it into the college and leave it on your laptop? Why don't you maybe do a summary on some nice PowerPoint slides, convert them to a PDF, and have that on your LinkedIn? If you've done a presentation, someone took a photo, you can just add so much media, and research shows that the more media, the more interesting the profile is, the longer the reader stays, and the more you kind of come into their mind as a possibility for an opportunity. So just think of it as a portfolio. Number 10, if you don't have an audience, going back to my original statement of having a very snazzy profile, but you need to build the audience. So you need connections, okay? I would say this is a habitual thing. You obviously can start growing them when you're now working on your LinkedIn, but you can't stop. You need to spend maybe 15, 30 minutes a week trying to see where else I can get connections. And it is important to personalize your connections with a message, particularly if you haven't seen the person in a long time. Okay. Now, for people who say, Brendan, I don't really have a LinkedIn, or sorry, I don't really have a network, I would always point to your mobile phone and say, that's your network. That's how it's starting. Start there. Go through relatives, sporting, part-time jobs, colleagues, classmates, etc. They'll each, if they're not now, they will be in a company shortly. So build your network out. There's a message there from Vinette. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Brendan. I just wanted to ask, is it okay if we can we add our part-time job experience as well that we are working here, though we have the professional experience from our home country?
Yeah,
And
I mean, if you have professional experience part-time, absolutely. But very often I'll give an example of maybe a general UL, maybe just say undergrad student, and the university has supported them getting an internship or a co-op that's relative to their qualification. Okay, so they have their education, they graduate, they have their relevant experience with a company that's linked to their area of study, and then they start putting down the petrol station, the bar, McDonald's. There's no need for that. You already have relevant experience. I would just keep that there. However, if you didn't have that internship, I would put down some work experience, but be mindful not to just have a transactional duties. And what I mean by that is, I'll use a bar person, okay, working in a bar. I know there's difficulties in the last few years in relation to that, and you're specifying the transactional duties, serving food and drink. Really, let's say you're there 5-6 years, you've been there quite a bit of time, so I'm more interested in your professional expansion or journey. And what I mean by that is, I've stood in for the manager. I have trained new staff. Initially, I started in junior roles. I've built up the responsibility. Those three things, those three bullet points have far more weight than just tell me what a bar person does, because I've been in a bar, we've all been in a bar. So, definitely no problem if you have a part-time job and it's relative to your course of study. But if it's not relative, just make it meaningful, would be my, I suppose, a long answer to your question. So hopefully that helps.
okay,
So thanks a million. So build that profile. Now, if you're new to LinkedIn, which I'd say few of you are, but if a couple of you are new to LinkedIn, you're building it for the first time, LinkedIn will automatically offer you the option to sync with all of your email contacts. That's a pretty much a blunt tool. I'm not sure we all want basically every single email contact is a LinkedIn contact, but it's there. Alumni, though, is something different, and I think we'll cover alumni, especially UL alumni, and how that works in a moment. Okay, so alumni means those that have studied in UL or any other university that you have studied in, or any other college. Okay, we'll come to that in a moment. Tip 11, LinkedIn groups. So anyone can build or make a LinkedIn group. And these groups basically are a collective of individuals that share something, normally professional, but there is non-professional groups as well. So it could be, let's say I go to London or I go to Scotland and I'm an Irish graduate. There could be Scottish-Irish LinkedIn group there, and that might be an idea for me to go and look and join for networking opportunities. However, if you look at technically, I am a physics PhD student and I am doing very, very technical work in a very niche area. I guarantee you there's a LinkedIn group for that. So especially for the niche things, jobs can be shared in these closed groups. What groups should I join? Well, here's a tip for you. Again, look at alumni, those that have studied in UL what you're studying now and are a few years out. So they have matured their LinkedIn profile. You scroll down to the bottom, you will see a plethora of LinkedIn groups, and you will start to see the same ones come up more often than not. And that's a signpost as to the groups that are very popular in your area and the groups that you should consider joining. And they're the gatekeepers or administrators. They could be normal people, normal 9-to-5 jobs. So sometimes you do have to wait before they admit you in. What's the criteria for allowing you to join that closed group? They'll see it from your profile. If you have some semblance of linkage to whatever the group is about, they're sure to let you in. If you don't have any obvious link, they may not let you in. That's just basically how it works. Final tip, companies have their own pages inside LinkedIn. And a lot of the time, they'll give tips on their recruitment practice and the journey, through the application process. And I do think, especially if you're putting your URL at the top of your CV and they go in and they start looking at your profile, it's nice to see that you're following them when you're in the recruitment process. So yeah, good idea if you have your target companies to start following them now, as long as in addition to making applications. So finally, I'm going to look at some of the new features and tools available on LinkedIn. The first one, it's been there a number of years, is the alumni. Very, very powerful tool. I'll just ask somebody has their microphone on. If everyone could just check their microphone and mute, that would be great. And basically, let me see now. Can I do it here manually? Moment. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I think I got it. Right, we're back to silence again. So alumni, you just put in University of Limerick, okay, and the landing page for UL will come up, and you can see there on the slide, there's just a menu item for LinkedIn, okay, sorry, for alumni, and that'll show you about 60 odd thousand. I don't know if I have a slide on it. Next one, I don't. About 60 odd thousand graduates from University of Limerick. You don't need to go through them all, and you'd never be able to. I would then start the filter, very, very powerful filter, where it shows you if they're in Ireland, what they studied in UL. It'll show you what companies they're working on, and you can just filter to your heart's content. And as you filter, it's very, very powerful. Their profiles start to appear further down. So you scroll down. They have added their remote as well as a feature, just in relation to job search. But I just don't want to go off linked alumni yet. I am seeing a trend where students, or particularly soon-to-be graduates, are connecting with alumni that are maybe in their target company. Now, obviously, these people are not all HR people. They're just normal graduates and alumni of UL that are working away in various organizations. But I am seeing, good practice in relation to networking where, they might connect in, and if the people accept a connection, you might go back to them, a week later and just say, look, how you doing, Kevin? Mary, I'm just came across your profile. Thanks for linking in with me. I'm my final year, and I was just wondering if you'd be available to take a call this week or next, for just 3 to 5 minutes, any advice you might have. Now, 9 out of 10 of them mightn't reply to you, but if one did, that is a direct link into a target organization that you're interested in. 9 out of 10 times, they'll have a quick chat with you and they'll offer to refer in your CV. And the referred CVs have a higher likelihood, the data shows this, of an interview than you going through the company website. So it's just food for thought in relation to alumni. Some other tools. So LinkedIn have introduced stories, very, very common for all of us on Facebook and Instagram. LinkedIn are no different. They've open to work badge. As a graduate, I just think this is kind of a no-brainer. Majority of graduates are open to work, so I don't see the power of it. Maybe when you're experienced, you'd put it up, but I mean, it's kind of a catch-22. I don't know if I'd put it up if I was gainfully employed and my employer could see that I have an open to work badge. So it's a bit of a misdemeanor. LinkedIn have artificial intelligence tools. You can see there the more at the top of your profile, it allows you to build a resume. But you, as a UL student, you have free access to an AI CV building tool called Career Set. So you can just go onto the UL website, into Career Service, go down to CVs, and you'll see the landing or the login, and I believe it's just your UL address and your password. Just to mention that. LinkedIn, you can save articles, and anybody who has an unusual name, or maybe you've moved jurisdiction and everybody thinks your name is unusual, it might be an idea to just record your name, and there's a little mic beside your name. It's a new feature on LinkedIn. So for maybe a prospective interviewer, before you go online to interview you, it's a nice little feature. They can hover over, play the little sound file, and it's a little audio clip of you pronouncing your name. Now, not everybody's going to need it, but it's good to know that it's there. So it's a record and display your name pronunciation. Finally, some LinkedIn tools. If you're doing some research, there's a, and LinkedIn is, we just said that there's 60 odd thousand UL alumni on it there. You can do polls, so if you're doing some an assignment or something, it might be an idea to create a poll. And again, I think it's good exposure for you, particularly if you're in the job searching mode. A lot of people, it gets a lot of traction on LinkedIn. People love polls, and they love to see the result as well. So there's just some visuals there on how to do that. It's basically when you go to post something, you hit the plus button and the drop down menu comes. They have a new feature. It was in beta now. I'm not sure if it's rolled out, but basically LinkedIn have again an AI powered interview practice tool. And again, UL Career Service, we also have an interview practice tool, and it's available on the UL website under the careers section. It's called Shortlist Me. Basically, that is, it's a platform where you can practice interviews. So let's say you're a law graduate, etc. You go into a law interview, and it'll take you through just some of the common questions, and it records you. You can play it back and get some practice. It's a great tool. So the interview tool is called Shortlist Me. Now, when should I post to get maximum exposure? I'm trying to get my profile out there and get seen. So obviously, there is peak times when, there's more audience on LinkedIn, and that's when you should be posting. Personally, I think it's just before 9 o'clock and just before 5 o'clock. Okay, so people at the start of the day, no one really likes putting in meetings for 8:30, but they're still kind of logging on and the dip into LinkedIn, or they're finishing up meetings for the day around 4 o'clock. But you can see there, middle of the week, etc., is more popular, and it's just for engagement. So if you do have some content that you think, geez, that's a really good article for what I'm studying for at the moment, you might bookmark it and release it at peak audience time. So that just makes sense. So that finishes, I suppose, our talk today on LinkedIn. Hopefully you found that useful. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them now. Other than that, I wish you all a very, very, very good weekend. Thanks very much, everybody.